The Magic for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony and 4 unprotected first-round picks, which begs the question from the Windman, who had his fingers up in the air. What is the biggest question, Windy, coming out of this deal?
What does this mean for the Grizzlies? This is now what is being asked in the league, because this is a rebuild trade. The next question is, what about Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.? If I was at the Grizzlies press conference, this is the number one question I would be asking. I'd be asking, do you intend to extend Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., both of whom are extension eligible this summer? Are you going to try to, is that what you're doing now, or are you pivoting the franchise?
Pivoting the franchise would mean trading Ja Morant and trading Jaren Jackson, and these are excellent players. So I know what you're saying. You're saying, Greeny, Desmond Bane traded to Orlando. Okay, I'm interested. All of a sudden, now we're talking about these two stars in Memphis. Now I'm leaning forward in my chair. Let's talk about Ja Morant. Should the Grizzlies trade him this offseason?
If I were Zach Kleiman in Memphis, I would highly consider it. I would consider it. Number one, I saw Desmond Bane get traded for 5 first-round picks. I wonder what the value for Ja Morant could be. Number two, availability is a skill. He's missed 126 games in 3 seasons. Injuries, suspensions, off-the-court issues. Okay, like the best way to build a culture is not based upon unpredictability. And also, like I really see him matured. Like it's something that is kind of concerning for him over his time period there, making off-the-court decisions, gun issues, regardless of whether you think he's right or wrong with the gestures. These are problems, and I think his value is still high. He is box office. I think there are franchises out there that will give up a boatload of assets for Ja Morant. Well, so you have to consider it.
It's an interesting point because all the issues, the concerns you're raising, I assume other teams have as well. So are they going to give up the boatload that you're talking? That to me is the question. I don't know the answer. I'm not pushing back. I agree with literally every word you just said.
Yeah, see, to me, I think you're almost selling low right now. Like that's something that you might want to get him into the season and have him playing at a high level and then reconsider around the trade deadline, where all of a sudden you'll see teams maybe want to make that bigger jump because of everything you just said. There's too much of the more recent baggage and injury issues than there is that guy. Remember a couple of years ago when they were top seed in the West, and he was one of the best players in the league. And we were talking about him being a face of the league. If there's a player on the Grizzlies roster that I'm now watching, that I'm saying, wait a second, if you're going to make a reset with this roster, and this is a guy that's due a contract and you're going to have to talk to, it's Jaren Jackson Jr. Because that's a piece that a team like the Golden State Warriors, that a team like the Los Angeles Lakers could look at and say, we get that guy, we can win a championship. And they'd be right. So there's very few players in the league where you would say, whatever it costs, I want that guy. He's one right now, a defensive player of the year type candidate, a guy's averaging over 20 a game, shoots threes at a high level, blocks shots at a high level. That's a guy that could take teams like those two that are trying to get one more ring for these old veteran players, and you can win a chip now.
I would not trade him. I would keep JJ.
They got to pay him. Remember, they got to pay him.
I understand. I would
pay him. How do you know he wants to stay? He might say, I want to test the market. He's got 1 year left.
But I'm saying, like, I don't really care what you want to do.
If they trade away Desmond Bane and they trade away Ja Morant, now all of a sudden you're Jaren Jackson Jr.
Get me out of here.
You want to be part of that rebuild. I mean, you're either in it or you're either rebuilding or you're not. I mean, that's what
I can rebuild around you. If I have all those assets, yeah.
But I'm 27. I can go into free agency, and I know I'm going to have teams coming after me. I don't know if I want to sit around.
I still know like teams like the
that.
Lakers have the assets to give me what I would want for Jaren Jackson at this stage. He's in the prime of his career.
It's going to be hard,
right? Like it's going to be really hard for the Lakers.
That's fair, but putting him, I'm just envisioning him right now on the floor with LeBron and Luka.
That's fair, but I don't really care what you want to do, JJ. I don't care what you want to do.
I understand.
We need to get back a little bit to more of these NFL ways that are happening where owners are the ones saying this is what we're going to do. It's not about what you dictate, we do.
I get it, and I don't like it when you call me JJ.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
So, JB, it's a complicated thing. You're an active head coach, so I'm not going to ask you to comment on trades and all that sort of thing, but here's what I would say. And Alan sort of pointed it out. There was a moment in time when it felt like Ja Morant might be on the verge of becoming the biggest star in the league. We keep talking about who's the next face of the league going to be. 2-3 years ago, we thought it was going to be him. Just as a player, give me the scouting report. If you're playing them tonight, what are you telling your players about Ja Morant?
Just how dynamic he is and how he can carry the load. The most important thing when you're building a team is you got to find the guy. Right? And Ja Morant has proven to be the guy. it was 3 weeks ago in the season, and in a tough Western Conference, the Grizzlies were still the 4th seed at that time. So he has the ability to carry basketball teams. When you start rebuilding, you're at the behest of the NBA, the draft, the lottery, free agency, all those things. Memphis, especially, is a place that doesn't attract a lot of free agents, so you have to draft well. They drafted well in Ja Morant and JJ. Like, those are the guys you got to keep and try to build around if I'm looking at it from the outside looking in.
Okay, fascinating little scenario there. That's why we called it sneaky, huge news. The trade yesterday is interesting. What it could set in motion is fascinating. Speaking of which, our next stop is Phoenix.
It does not pertain to Kevin Durant. The Grizzlies are trading Desmond Bane to Orlando, sources telling ESPN's Shab Sharania. In return, Memphis will get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and 4 unprotected first-round picks, including this year's number 16 overall pick. Bane is under contract for 4 more years after signing that max extension just 2 years ago. But Bane will now join a young core of talent in Orlando featuring Jalen Suggs, Paolo Banchero, and Franz Wagner. That trio combined to play only 6 games together last year. The Magic gearing up in hopes of winning a playoff series for the first time since 2010.
Let's bring in our senior NBA writer, Brian Windhorst. He's here. Wendy, this seems like an awfully lot, and certainly no disrespect to Desmond Bane, to trade for to get him. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, let's break this trade into 2 parts and focus on the Orlando side and the Grizzlies side. And I promise you the Grizzlies side is more interesting. But first, we're going to talk about Orlando. The Magic have needed more offense for a year, and it was actually a little bit mystifying that they didn't make a trade at mid-season when they had a bunch of expiring money on their books, when they wouldn't have had to give up a player beyond this year, and didn't do so. And they really collapsed offensively down the stretch and were not a threat in the playoffs because of it. So they trade for a guy in Desmond Bane, who over the last 3-4 years has averaged about 20 points and shot over 40%. He's under controlled long-term contract, plays both ends of the court, a quality player. And they also trade Kentavious Caldwell-Pope away. You have to look at this trade not only as acquiring Desmond Bane, but they're offloading the contract of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He was a big free agent signing a year ago, but he did not have a good year, okay, guys? And he's owed $43 million over the next 2 years. So part of what they're paying with those picks is for Bane, but also to offload what is viewed as a bad contract. It is a rich thing to trade. The 16th pick in this draft isn't viewed as super expensive, but unprotected in 26, 28, and 30. We have no idea what those teams are going to be. That's a big price, but they're paying for get rid of Caldwell-Pope and to acquire Bane. That's what you have to understand. Now, let's turn the page to the Grizzlies. What does this mean for the Grizzlies? This is now what is being asked in the league, because this is a rebuild trade, okay? While Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has proven to be a key piece of a championship contender twice in his career, last season did not look like that, and he has gotten older and has a big contract. So this is a trade where the Grizzlies are pivoting a little bit, and it's not an insane thing, because if you look at the Western Conference and you look at how tough it is to compete, and you look at what Memphis thinks about their hand, it may be the time to do a little bit of a pivot. There's not almost anybody in the Western Conference who is really rebuilding right now. Everyone's kind of got the gas put down, including the Jazz. The Jazz are intending to try to turn it up. And so what this means is, the next question is, what about Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.? And I don't know the answer to this. This is something that we're just started trying to figure out with this trade. The whole league is now going to investigate this, and we haven't heard from the Grizzlies yet. And if I was at the Grizzlies press conference, this is the number one question I would be asking. I wouldn't be asking about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I wouldn't be asking about Cole Anthony. I wouldn't be asking about those 4 first-round picks. I'd be asking, do you intend to extend Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., both of whom are extension eligible this summer? Are you going to try to, is that what you're doing now, or are you pivoting the franchise? So to me, that's the big story emanating out of this trade.
Okay, great perspective there. But if you had to give up a couple of players and 4 unprotected first-round picks to get Desmond Bane, what in the heck will you have to give up to get Kevin Durant?
Well, again, I just want to point out, I know that's the headline, and I get it, and it is a steep price, But they're not just paying to acquire Bane. They're also paying to offload Caldwell Pope. Caldwell Pope's contract at this point, he just had arguably his lowest output season of his career, certainly in years. And again, he's under contract for 2 years. So if you just did a trade, just trading Caldwell Pope, you would have had to pay with that, with maybe a first-round pick and a half. So that's part of it. I do think it's a little rich, but I don't think you can compare it straight to Durant. I know that's what people are going to leap to, but you have to look at it on both ends of that spectrum.
Okay, well, the good thing for the Magic, when you talk about Desmond Bane, really the only Western Conference players last season to average more points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game than Bane, Nikola Jokic, and LeBron James. Brian Windhorst.